Your YouTube feed is crap. Stop wasting your time watching bot-boosted shills and self-appointed gurus cloying for your attention. Instead, join the Goslings interview live stream and podcast. The Goslings, a dark-lit digital speakeasy of free thinkers. A super chat of radical truth-seeking wizards who eat trolls for second breakfast. Topics that'll make your mama's hair stand on end. Ideas that'll make your pastor's knees knock. Guests that will illuminate the hidden chambers of your mind. And interviews that strike down the darkness. Welcome to the Goslings.
What's up,
everyone?
Nick was running an experiment real quick to see if he could hit the head one last time.
So good to see you guys. Thank you for watching.
It was a massive failure.
It was, oh, well.
Nope.
You get to a certain age.
That's right. Anyways, welcome, everyone.
Hey.
I'm Jonathan.
I'm Nick.
And we are the Goslings.
Hello.
And we are super excited to do this. This is the first of what it should be a quarterly thing.
Yep.
But we're going to tell you about it in a second. First of all, we're going to get through just real quick some front of house stuff.
Absolutely. And do all the things. Take up the broken sword of your finger, strike down the subscribe button. We'd really appreciate it. We have something awesome lined up for you today, and we have every weekend booked for like 3 months. You guys, you gotta subscribe, hit the bell.
Yeah,
really appreciate it. And with that, we'll kick it over to you for sponsors.
If you haven't noticed, my beard and my hair have looked luxurious lately.
So luscious.
That is thankful to, we owe all of that to Giordani Jovanovic hair care product. Just a husband and wife team. They make these and they sell them out of Arizona. They have a website, JordaniJovanovic.com. Real products for real men, or as I like to say, be as sexy as you are deadly.
I like that.
Give 007 a run for his money with JordaniJovanovic.com.
Trademark 2022.
Right. And Nick, I noticed we're drinking out of some pretty dope mugs here. I'm feeling very...
We're not drinking dope out of mugs.
No, we're not. We're drinking out of dope mugs.
Yeah, out of dope mugs.
Yeah, it's very Lacedaemonian in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Very Spartan-esque. Maybe you can speak briefly.
Absolutely. These are the Kothon Spartan mugs. These are handcrafted. Every one of them are handcrafted by Joel Cherico from Cherico Pottery.
Yep.
And these are a replica of what the Spartans would travel with and use and drink out of.
Spartan Kothon mugs. Made in conjunction with our guest for today.
Shall we?
An amazing man. The Jedi Master of writing.
Yeah.
The guru of defeating resistance, the man, the myth, the legend, our friend, Uncle Steven Pressfield.
Hello, Steve.
I'm laughing because I'm getting a reverb from you guys. It sounds like Cousin Brucey from 1972 in New York City.
Oh, boy.
Can you hear me okay?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah,
we can hear you.
Yeah.
How are things since we last talked to you? How you been?
Everything's good as long as I'm talking to you guys.
Shucks. Shucks.
Diana just had COVID for like the last 10 days.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man, I'm sorry.
She finally tested negative this morning.
Good.
Awesome.
It's a long 10 days, I bet.
Oh, man, it'll take it out of you. I hope she came through it okay.
Yeah, everything's okay now. But
Good.
I am really hearing you guys double. This is going to be a little tricky.
Oh, okay.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and I don't know. We've had some audio issues. That's kind of why we're running a little late. Yeah, I wonder if there's some feedback, because I know that we had a little microphone issue, and it's still a little choppy, but we'll see if we can't hopefully sort it out here.
Maybe I should talk. Maybe I shouldn't yell into the microphone.
Yeah, is that what it is?
I'll do my best.
I'll move this over.
I'll do my best.
In
the meantime,
yes,
we should at least do our toast.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And
Okay.
Uncle Steve was good enough to join us for our toast last time, and we'll do it again today.
Absolutely.
And I'll let you start.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Take up the broken sword of your father.
And strike down the darkness.
Sword of your father. And strike down the darkness.
Cheers.
That's right. Cheers, Uncle Steve.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we really wanted to do this kind of every quarter. We had the idea of doing fireside chats with Uncle Steve, which is where we just talk about writing. We talk about things that you would want people to know that would help them. And we thought the first one right out of the gate that we should probably talk about are good habits that help you in your writing. Steve, what are some good habits that you have had throughout the years that help you with your writing?
Okay. I'm a gym person, and I get up at like ridiculously early hours. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
I get up at a ridiculously early hour and go to the gym 6 days a week, which is, I believe, just the really, for me, the only way to start the day. I'm definitely a morning person. I don't write at night. I don't write in the afternoons. And my reason for getting up early and going to the gym I'm keeping going, but I'm getting major reverb here. I'm hearing
Are you
myself
really?
as I talk.
Okay.
Um, is I'll just keep going and pretend it's okay.
Okay.
It's all about resistance with a capital R. It's all about getting ready for the moment when you really sit down and have to kind of confront your own, your own resistance, your own self-sabotage. So the reason for me going to the gym is I want to sort of start the day doing something that's really hard, something that I don't want to do, and something that hurts. So I'm sort of just trying to establish a series of little successes, as my friend Randy Wallace says. He always likes to start the day with a little success and then another little success and another little success. Take a walk the dog, take a shower, have breakfast, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's by the time I'm done at the gym, first of all, I'm exhausted, but I do feel like I've done nothing I do for the rest of the day is going to be as hard as what I just did. So I'm now ready to go. And then I'll come home, have breakfast and then get after it.
Yeah. 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 That's the gym, going for a run, doing any kind of exercise always seems to accomplish something huge at the beginning of the day and set the template and set the stage for what the rest of your day is going to look like.
I like that you try to do the hardest thing first.
Yeah.
You get those wins behind you.
Yeah.
Because for me, the hardest thing is definitely, trying to get to it, like getting to a gym. That seems like that would be the most difficult thing. And when you get, and you hit it so early too. I mean, when does your day start? When does Steven Pressfield get out of bed and get after all that?
I set the alarm for 3 o'clock. It sounds insanity, I know, but I'm up at 6. I'm at the gym at 5. I mean, I'm up at 3. I was at the gym at 5, and I'm in bed by 7:30 usually at night.
Wow.
Like it's kind of crazy. Friends invite you out to dinner. I basically can't go. We can't go. And Diana goes to bed with me at the same time. I've driven her insane. She now leads this crazy life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you have to sacrifice somewhere. You can't burn the candle at both ends in perpetuity. So you have to kind of pick one or the other. Were you ever a night owl? Were you ever a late person?
I was a night owl for years.
Yeah.
And I was for years, and actually, I think those were some good years. I have nothing against that at all. But at the point where I really decided that I'm in this writing game for real, then I really sort of committed to a whole different way of life.
Yeah.
For me, I didn't have success at all until I was in my 50s. And so I've been, ever since then, I kind of feel like I'm so far behind the 8 ball that I got to make up for a lot of lost years. Um, so that's kind of why I get up early in the morning trying to catch up.
I feel that same way at 39.
Yeah, but you wrote for a long time, years and years and years before your book Legend of Bagger Vance was published.
Yeah.
At what point during that journey, writing that, during that writing period, at what point was it, like, what happened when you said, okay, I'm going pro with this?
Yeah.
I think you guys and I, we've talked about this before a little bit, but it's in my book, The War of Art.
Right.
It was kind of a moment when I, after running away from writing for years and years, I just kind of pulled out my ancient typewriter and sat down for a couple of hours a night. The first time I'd done it in like 7 years, and just finally had a moment when it actually worked for me, even though I wasn't producing anything good, obviously, yet, where I actually felt good after sitting down. I felt like I feel coming back from the gym, like I'd done something right. And small a moment as that sounds like, it was a huge moment because some gear had flipped over in my head and something had changed. I don't know what it was. Now, be it said, after that, it took me like another 25 years after that before I actually got something published. It wasn't like anything good happened, but at least from that point on, the mechanism in my head was, I may start out feeling crazy and hating myself, but by the time I'm through sitting down at the keyboard for a couple of hours or 4 hours, I feel sane and I feel like I've done my best,
Yeah.
So that was a turning pro moment for me, Nick, even though I wasn't going to make any money for another 25 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it sets the stage for you, and it builds good habits so that when success does come, you are prepared for it,
I have a question for you. You've written so many great novels. You've written a lot of really excellent historic fiction, historic nonfiction, and you wrote the tome on how to be a writer. Really, between all of these works, especially in between novels, which can really take a lot of time, when you're in between novels and you sit down to write, what are some things that you end up writing? Do you always commit to whatever the next story idea is or whatever the next novel is? Or are there these in-between times where you're still writing every day and you're coming up with just kind of the unknown when you sit down?
I'm a big believer, Nick, that there shouldn't be any in-between times. And so I really, as I'm working on one particular book, a side of my mind and literally hours of the day that I'll be trying to figure out what's the next thing. And I really want to know what the next thing is while I'm still in the one I'm working on. And I'll start working on the next one, kind of cheat a few hours here and there to get something going.
Okay.
And I'll do my thing. You guys know my sort of method, my fool's cap method, which we can talk about sometime if you want to.
That's actually one of my
sort
questions.
Of a way of getting your arms around a new project and sort of blocking it out in your mind in a way that you can evaluate it and say, do I really want to do this? Is this any good? Do I think it has any potential? Is it not a dead end? Is it going somewhere? Mm-hmm. And I really like to, when I finish one book, to have the other book, the next book, already started, and a real beachhead in it. And the only time I'll let myself take a vacation is when I feel like I've got some momentum, like I've landed on the beach at Normandy and I've pushed in another 10 or 15 miles, enough so I know that the Nazis are not going to drive me back into the sea. And then I'll take a vacation when I know I've got a little bit of momentum.
Yeah, that's smart. Well, and it allows you to take your ideas with you when you go on vacation because you have that momentum built up.
Yeah,
And you can,
exactly, Jonathan,
yeah,
exactly.
man, we went to Prague one year. It's the only time I'd ever been to Europe. And I got so many notes out of that. I was able to write a whole novel about a blind Greek mercenary, hoplite. So, but you have those ideas beforehand, and then you go on your trip, and then you're like, oh, this will work for my trip. This will work. This will work for my book. This will be great. So, yeah. Um, what habits don't work for you that you see other people recommending?
That's a good one. Um, that's a good one. I'm not really sure. I'm certainly a believer in not overworking something in the particular day. Not to, I'm not, I can't write like for 10 hours straight.
Yeah.
I know, Jonathan, you've said you do that sometimes. I
Sort
can't do
of.
that. I'm definitely, I don't believe, I think you have to keep in mind that a novel or any long form thing, like they say, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yeah. Hmm.
And it's the same thing at the gym, right?
Yeah.
You have to sort of look at at almost a year at a time, I think, can I
Yeah.
get anywhere in a year? Because you're not going to get anywhere in a week or in a day. So,
Hmm.
at the same time as I'm kind of hard on myself and I really get up early and I really never miss a day, I will, I'll be a little easier on myself too. I won't, like if, I remember watching, I have some friends in Kentucky. We'll go out to the track and watch them train horses. And one of the interesting things
Really?
is that the trainers don't really work these thoroughbreds that hard.
Really?
They'll get them out on the track. They'll learn they have to run, or to keep turning left, and they'll work with them in the starting gate and stuff like that. But they won't run them into the ground. They won't run them to exhaustion. And I
Yeah.
think that that's something that I see other people try, and then it does not work for me.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's easy to get burnt out when you try to do that.
Yeah.
And
These days people are so impatient. Everybody wants quick.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, a life hack.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Well, yeah, it's the age of the hack for sure.
yeah, there's no life hack to writing a novel. You just do. But if there is, the closest thing you're gonna get is probably something like one of the books you've written. But so much of the advice that you give in these books has to do with humility and consistency and hard work. You know.
So I have another question for you. You've been bringing a lot of attention to this lately on your in Instagram page specifically. You've been talking about the fool's cap method. So for people who haven't heard of this, what is the fool's cap and who is Norm Stahl?
Oh yeah.
First of all, the word foolscap, which I had never even heard before. I heard it from my friend. Foolscap is a yellow legal pad, a long page. Years and years ago, when I was really, really struggling with the first novel or two and really, really lost, I have a friend and a mentor named Norm Stahl, who's a documentarian and a writer of all kinds, a screenwriter and a novelist. And he took me out to lunch, and he could see that I was like near suicidal and just couldn't get my shit together at all. He took out a sheet of yellow foolscap, a pad, a legal pad from his, and he said, "Steve, God made a single sheet of yellow foolscap to be exactly the right length to hold the outline of a full novel."
Hmm.
And that was a real breakthrough for me. The idea that you could somehow get it all on one page, not some lengthy Bible that had, the life histories of every character, and or an outline that had 800 scenes on it.
Mhm.
that it was possible that the discipline of trying to put it all on one page, however abbreviated, would really help you. Like if you were designing a house and you had to do it on one page, you could do it, right? You could say, a little sketch of where the place is going to be, where the kitchen's going to be, where the front door is, and you would at least get a sense of what you wanted. And it's the same thing for a book. If you've got Act One, Act Two, Act Three, well, we could go into great detail about it, but it's just doing it on one page really helps.
Yeah.
One of my favorite pieces of advice that you gave was to write the climactic sequence, the big scene first. To write how everything resolves first, roughly, I think is how you said it, and then go back. Do you do that when you're using the foolscap method and you're putting everything down on one page? Do you
I
still have
do.
that same approach?
I do. It's really a kind of a technique that you learn in screenwriting. That's the way most people write movies, right?
Oh, okay.
If you start with Captain Ahab locked up with Moby Dick, plunging this harpoon into him as they fight to the death, then you can sort of work backwards from there, right?
Yeah.
Got to be a long chase. There's got to be a history between them where they hate each other. There's got to be an almost moment where they almost get together, et cetera,
Yep.
et cetera. And then you can go all the way back to the initial start of the voyage. And uh, it's definitely a great discipline. I haven't done it on everything, but it's a great way to do it. Um, I'll give you the opposite story. I think I might have told you guys this. One of my books is called Killing Rommel, and
Yeah.
it takes place in World War II in the North Africa campaign, and it's about a British Special Forces unit that is assigned to go behind the lines in North Africa and try to kill the great German general Erwin Rommel. And I had written like 9/10 of the book. Absolutely, this is all true. And I realized I had no scene with Rommel in it. I said, I said, Steve, don't you think you ought to have a scene with him in this thing? So had I been smart, I would have started with that scene and known exactly what it was, and then I would have worked backwards from there.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it all worked out in the end, but I was really an idiot to work that way.
Well, sometimes you don't know until until you're in the pickle how to get out of the pickle.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to take your advice. I just finished a kid's book, and that's kind of we're beginning the editing process of that right now. But I'm already itching to start drafting the next book, and I'm going to use the foolscap method. And I'm going to start by writing that
Yeah.
big
Well,
scene.
Nick, I'm
that end
actually, I
scene.
know you know this. I'm doing a little video series on Instagram right now
Mhm.
about the foolscap method.
Yeah.
So anybody can look them up on Instagram. I'm up to like episode 5 or 6.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. I'm going to be sticking real close to that. I'm going to stick real close to that because I really want to try this. I had never heard of this method before.
Yeah.
I'd never heard the term foolscap before,
Yeah.
but the method of just putting everything on one page, that was new to me. So this is a really interesting journey I'm going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hang on one second.
Yep, we're hanging. Look at that typewriter.
I know.
That's so cool.
Yeah, he's got a Kothon back there
I
too.
don't know
Yep.
if you can see this.
Yeah, the
But
authentic
this is a
swing.
book of mine called The Authentic Swing, and it's about the writing of the Legend of Bagger Vance. And this thing that's on the cover is the foolscap, the one-page thing for the Legend of Bagger Vance.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of what it looks like.
Okay.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's the thing. When you have to work in a confined space, like a single yellow page, it teaches you what is wheat and what is chaff, what's important, what needs to stay, and how to articulate it. It's kind of like Steve used to say in, I think it was The War of Art, how poets make the best novelists because they understand the economy of words, and those kind of exercises, anything that encourages the economy of words. The
Yeah.
foolscap method is awesome.
Yeah. Have you used it
So,
before? Have you?
yeah.
You have? Wow.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I didn't know it was called that though. Yeah. See, that's a great thing, man. Every time anybody goes to your Instagram, like we always learn something new.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Nick, you had you had one in there that was really good for kids, actually.
Oh yeah, because I write for kids and I have kids, and I know that is not your market. But if Steven Pressfield had a 10-year-old daughter, which I understand he doesn't, but if he did, and you noticed that she was, she had kind of some talent budding as a little storyteller, how would you, what kind of advice or help would you give or seek out for her? Because I'm in that situation with my daughter. What would you advise me to do for her if she's just learning how to tell a story and is thinking about writing books?
That's a great question. It kind of, wow.
I know that's kind of out of left field.
Hit you with a curveball.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
And it requires a lot of distilling.
I wonder if you can screw a kid up by telling them too much too soon. Maybe it's better to just encourage her to just keep going, keep doing it, and find her just to keep the fun in it for her, instead of trying to put her into some kind of structure, Again, I don't know. I've never done this. I've never worked with it.
Sure.
As a storyteller, so I don't know. But when somebody asks me to help them with writing something, which I almost never do, the only thing I ever really do is just encourage them.
Yeah.
And try never to put any negative thing in there at all. Or I think where I'll go wrong when someone asks me to help them, and this is why I don't help people, is what I do is, and this is bad, what I do is I say, well, if I were doing this is what I would do, which is probably the worst advice you could give to anybody. Because what you really want is to encourage them to do what their instinct and what their muse tells them.
Yeah.
So Nick, I would just encourage her, just, whatever she does, tell her it's great. Keep doing it. Don't stop.
That I can do. Because everything she does is really great.
And she'll love to hear that.
And she loves to hear that everything she does is great. So very cool. Well, thank you for that. I really appreciate you weighing in on that. You mind if I ask another one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I also think that's what we should do for ourselves. Well, it's self-talk, that at the end of the day, Nick, you did great. Keep going, that kind of thing, to ourselves.
Well, that's the self-reinforcement principle you talk about in your book.
Yeah.
Very, very important. It's easy as a writer to hammer on yourself for not achieving what you think you should, So self-reinforcement, very important. Very, very important.
I mean, it was one of the most challenging things for me in your book personally, because I get down on myself really easily.
Yeah.
I'm and every writer's like that too, in a way, like they want other people to write their stuff. They're sensitive to criticism, but I'm sensitive to self-criticism. I mean, so that's something that I'm definitely working on.
Yeah.
The definition of resistance with a capital R is our own negative self-talk, right? And so we should not encourage our bad self to keep telling that's coming in all the time, the negative stuff.
Yeah.
So I say in Put Your Ass Where Your Heart Wants to Be that the ability to self-reinforce is more important than talent. And I think it's absolutely true, because self-reinforcement will keep you going over the years, and talent will not.
Yeah.
Talent will burn out.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Have there ever been any books that you were in the middle of, Steve, that like really tested your good habits? Were there any just nightmare projects that were tough to get through?
Yes. I mean, it's like almost all of them do. I mean, I do find, I won't say every book, but almost every book breaks down in the middle for me.
Yeah.
I do have a crisis in the middle somehow because I usually have not thought it through well enough.
Yeah.
You know, I've been lazy. And this, like Nick, this is why the foolscap method really helps. Because the foolscap method, at least the way I do it, makes you ask and answer the really tough questions at the start. You know, like what's the climax, right? What's the midpoint where everything turns? What's
Mhm.
that scene? You know, um, what's the theme? What's it about? Which we always, at least me,
Yeah.
I want to gloss over. I want to cheat and not really answer that question. And then halfway through, the story falls apart, and you have to kind of, you know, this is where my working with my great editor, Sean Coyne,
Mhm.
has helped me so many times over the years because when I hit that moment where everything falls apart, that's when you really need help. You need another Gosling in there that you can talk to, you know,
Mhm.
because somebody else can come in and kind of see where you've lost the trail. But
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it almost always happens, Jonathan. Almost always, it'll break
Yeah.
down in the middle, and that in a way that's what separates the men from the boys. You know,
Mhm.
when you
Mhm.
can somehow rally and keep going.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I have it right now. And it's the same thing. It's always in the middle. It's always the middle section. And like even right now, I have a chapter that I have been trying to figure out for 2 weeks now. And it is brutal on a book that I wrote 10 years ago that I'm just trying to finish up,
Yeah.
and it's just like this should not be that hard.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just a a stone that you're just trying to bash with your
Yeah.
head, you know. And yeah, it's just not giving up on it, and just keep going.
For me, it was the end of the book I just finished.
Really?
I got down to, yeah, because the end was not the thing I wrote first. It was the thing I wrote last.
Right.
Just thinking, well, it's the end. I kind of have an idea of how I want everything to resolve, but I didn't think through it at all. And I got to close to the end, close to that big final scene, and yeah, it fell apart. It took me forever.
Yeah.
It took me forever to just bang it out and then wipe it and then do it again.
Yeah.
And we'll see. My editor might say, I don't like the ending, but I had to at least get it done. So, but
And
that's where it fell apart for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you talk about doing the ending first or having that scene or what you want out of the ending written down first. I always saw that as a great anchor point. Like the Heavenly Realms series, I wish that I had written all of the books first before I published a single one, because you find things along the way that you think, oh, this is a great idea. I wish I had known about this when I wrote chapter one or book one, so I could plant the seed for it, and have that cathartic build up and payoff. And nobody can really afford to do it. Everybody, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of asking too much of a writer to have them write the whole series first before they publish anything. But having your ending is really important because that's what everything is building towards.
Mhm.
It's the aircraft carrier that the F-14 is going to land on.
Yeah. What if the
You
Death
know?
Star didn't blow up?
Right.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And that's a dumb analogy. I'm sorry. That was dumb. I shouldn't
See,
have said
there's
that. I
there's that negative
apologize.
self-talk that he's always on about. I swear. Yeah.
You know,
Um,
let me recommend a book for our listeners here that maybe they
Yeah.
haven't heard of. This is by David Mamet, the great playwright and screenwriter. It's called
Yeah.
Three Uses of the Knife. Have we ever talked about this, you guys?
No.
No, never heard about this.
It's yeah, Three Uses of the Knife. It's a short book.
Okay.
Yeah, he really gets into the second act horrors, you know. and what it's all about. And it makes you feel like if Mamet's dealing with this, then maybe the rest of us are not so screwed up to be dealing with it too.
Yeah. Yeah. And you want to talk about a genius. David Mamet is amazing. His movie Spartan that he wrote with Val Kilmer, there are some scenes in that movie that like you have to have like a 150 IQ to write that thing.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Three Uses of the Knife by
Yes.
David Mamet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Will you spoil it for us and tell us what the three uses of the knife are, or do we need to go get the book and read it?
You know, I've read the book like 5 times. I still don't know what the 3 uses are.
Okay, good. It's good to know.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, right? Yeah, fair enough. One of our patrons and fellow self-published authors, J. Reese Bradley, had a great question. She wanted to know if you have ever written to market, or have you always only written for your passions?
That's a great question. I'll say this, that when I try to write for a market, I'm wrong. I'm always wrong.
Yeah.
You know, and the books that have worked for me have been things that came from my heart and that I thought, truly thought there was no market for. Really thought like, I'm the only person that will be interested in this. Like even Gates of Fire, that now is a, $1 million seller book. When I started it, if you think about it, a story of a battle from 2,500 years ago, nobody's ever heard of. They can't spell it. They can't pronounce it. It's from Americans only care about Americans. This is another country with the names of all the characters are unpronounceable. Nobody knows how to say them.
Yeah.
Why would anybody want to do this book? But I was just seized by it. I loved the story. So, and then it turned out to work. So the bottom line for me is when I follow my instincts, it comes out better than when I think I've got a real surefire project. It always just fizzles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I remember reading an interview of yours probably 15 years ago where you talked about that very thing, that Gates of Fire seemed like just a small thing that you and your handful of fellow historical friends, your historian friends, would be interested in. And yet it's on the Marine Corps Commandant's reading list. It has been, a million bestseller multiple times over. It is the benchmark, in my mind at least, of historical fiction. It is one of the greatest novels ever written. And yet, at the time, it totally just felt like, a passion project for you. It's funny how it works.
I have a confession to make about Gates of Fire.
Oh, okay, let's hear it.
It was the first non-fantasy novel that I ever read. I read it when I was 25, I think.
Yeah. 24.
24, 25. Mm-hmm. And it was the first novel that I read that wasn't, a fantasy novel.
That wasn't.
And
Lord
I was
of the
like,
Rings.
this, and my older brother gave it to me.
Yeah.
He gave me a copy of it. He said, "Oh man, this book's great. This guy, Steven Pressfield, he's awesome. You got to read this book."
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, "Oh, cool." Everything that my big brother liked, I was totally into,
And same.
Yeah. And I read it. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." I gave it to Jonathan. I'm like, "You got to read this book.
Yeah.
It's really good."
Yeah. And then they kept on reading other people's stuff. And I was like, who is this Pressfield guy? This is awesome.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, like Tides of War and the Virtues of War. Steve, I got a question for you that came up in an interview that I was doing with J. Reese Bradley. We were talking about finding your writer's voice. And I know you've touched on this briefly in the past in the War of Art. I wanted to ask you, how did you find your writer's voice? And I wanted to maybe have a conversation with you about exploring how people can find their voices as well.
That's a great question, Jonathan. I think for for me, it arose and it arises from the specific book, like in, let's say, Gates of Fire.
Hmm.
And I'm deciding that I'm going to tell the story from the point of view in the first person, from the point of view of a squire, an armor bearer, to the hero of the battle, the true Spartan Dionychus. So that kind of establishes your voice. So it's not my voice,
Yeah.
right? In a way, I'm like an actor in a role and trying to speak as that person. And that, to me, I think really freed me up quite a bit. And I would imagine that if we were Scott Fitzgerald and we were writing The Great Gatsby, once you come up with the character of Nick Carraway,
Hmm.
that's the character that's telling the story, then you just sort of imagine yourself into that person and speak in his or her voice. And I think that that's kind of what I've done with every book. Um, is try to find. It's not really my voice.
Yeah.
It's the character's voice. Um, uh, yeah, I don't know if you ever do write with quote unquote your voice. I mean, even if you think about Hemingway, um, where his books seemed so much like it was him talking. I don't know if they really were. I think that was a character that he invented, and it shifted from book to book.
Yeah. I've noticed that your voice shifts from book to book. So that makes perfect sense. Now, there's always this specific vernacular and way of writing that you have that I really love. But I noticed after you wrote The Virtues of War, which was narrated by Alexander the Great, which talk about a lofty aspiration, you know, ballsy, pretty ballsy to write a book where Alexander the Great's the narrator. And then you go on to the Afghan campaign, which was written from the perspective of a Macedonian phalangite, a Macedonian soldier. And the voices are totally different. And you can tell from page one. It was very impressive. Yeah.
I think, in a way, Jonathan, it really is like the career of an actor. Like if you think about
Yeah.
Meryl Streep, think about the parts that she's played, the many, many, many parts. And she's completely different in each one, right? Because, I mean, she's still her, she's still Meryl Streep,
Right.
but she can be, Karen Silkwood in the nuclear plant, or she can be Karen Blixen in Out of Africa. She enters into a role and sort of gives herself over to that role. I think that's what I do. I don't know. What do you guys do when you're getting into in the heavenly realms or in the children's realms? How do you find your voice?
Nick?
Well, I mean, I think it revolves around the main character.
Yeah.
Like I wrote a story called Easel Bancroft's Worst Day Ever, and it was about this sarcastic, self-righteous, pretentious homeschool kid who had to actually go to public school for 1 year and had just on in his mind. He's just like, he just thinks he's better than everyone, and he gets wrapped up in this drama that ends up humbling him. But it was that's where the voice came from. It was his disgust for the world around him. That was his voice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it was character based, and that makes total sense because when I'm writing, I'm thinking, what is my voice? Am I supposed to? Is there supposed to be some kind of consistent sound or feel between all of my books? I don't know. I always assumed that there was, but I've never really done that. So I didn't know if I was off base by just trying to write what my characters want to think and say and do in their unique ways, or I don't know. So this has actually been really reaffirming. Really.
Yeah. That's the great thing about doing first person perspective is you get to stretch your author's acting ability, you know, and you have to think like, okay, because I have 2 or 3 books in the Heavenly Realm series that are first person perspective. You know, most of the time it's third person, but there are some exceptions there. And yeah, you have to think like, would my character say it like this? And would my character describe this? And also, would my character, even though this is an important part of the story, would my character actually admit to this part of the story?
Yeah.
Or would he just gloss over it, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's just first person perspective is so much fun. It's risky because you're not getting to fill in all the details because your character doesn't see it. They're not omniscient. But the fun you get to have, it's tough. It's not easy. But have you ever been tempted to sort of dovetail over into third person?
Into third person?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it was hard for me, but like A Man at Arms is in third person, and one that I'm working on now is in third person. And
Oh, really?
you know, one thing I found, I'm sure you guys have found this too, is that you can write a character that's more intelligent than you are.
Oh, yeah.
You
All my
know?
characters are smarter than me.
And and you really can. And even if you're not, even in the third person, you can write more intelligently than you actually are. You know, and I find myself sometimes using bigger words than I would normally use. And
Yeah.
but then again, you are, even in the third person, you're sort of inserting yourself into another being than
Yeah.
yourself. You know, you're writing out of another place, maybe a higher level. And that's a big part of the fun of it. Because then I'm sure you know you have this too, you guys, is ideas will come out of your head that you didn't even know you had.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
where you look at those ideas later and you go, wow, that's pretty fucking smart. You know,
Right.
how did I come up with that? And of course you realize that you really didn't. It's coming from somewhere else, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is the beauty and the freedom of the humility of like when you realize that, the humility that you get out of that, of realizing that you are not the conductor, you are the instrument. You know, it's like faith. It's liberating because you're able to just let go and just be the conduit, you know, just play the song. You're not making up the song, you're just letting the force flow through you know. And it takes a lot of stress off.
It's very much like improv. I mean, in a way too, it's like if when you're a kid and you get busted for something, right? And a principal or a cop or your mom or your dad got you dead to rights, and on the spur of the moment, you come up with some bullshit story. And as it's spooling out, you're saying to yourself, where am I coming up with this stuff from? You know? No, I fell in the river. My brother jumped in. He got me. There was an alligator. We came out of it. It's like Donald Trump talking. You know? You don't know where it's coming from, but it is amazing. That's basically all fiction writing is, right? It's just making it up on the fly.
Yeah.
Do you have any habits or any extracurricular non-writing activities that help you maintain that sort of actor's mentality towards a voice? Like, do you read nonfiction? Do you read poetry? Is there anything you do to supplement or help that?
I'm a big movie person. I watch a million movies.
Okay.
And I don't usually read novels, which I probably should, but I'm much more of a nonfiction reader. But mainly it's movies for me, and I'll watch. You know, the movies that I love, I've seen 15 times. You know, I'll watch. You know, Pulp Fiction or Kill Bill #2 or The Godfather or something. I'll watch them over. You know, anytime it comes on, I'll get hooked by it and I'll do it again. And I do think that, but I do think any kind of art, music, painting, dance, anything at all it's just great to have it coming in. Even if you don't steal from it exactly, although I'm always looking to steal things, but it's inspiring to see great stuff, you know? You
Yeah.
come out of a great movie or watching reading a great book, and you say, I got to sit down. I got to try and do what this guy did.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like watching Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or something like that. When you
Yeah.
watch anybody, then you're just inspired to try harder yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm that way with several. The Godfather, you mentioned The Godfather, that whole saga. Man, I've watched it a dozen times, the whole thing a dozen times. I got to ask 1, 2, or 3, which is the best? I'm a 2 guy. I think part 2 is the superior
Yeah.
film, but where is Steven? And it's okay. They're all great. You're not demeaning any of them, but do you have a favorite of the trilogy?
Oh, another thing I would say on this subject is I love to read stuff from other eras, particularly
Okay.
from the deep past. You know,
Really?
I love the ancient Greeks. I love the Romans. I love,
Mhm.
anything in the Middle Ages, anything like that. Um, it's very inspiring and very freeing. I'm not sure why. Maybe
Yeah.
because, there's a tremendous pressure on us, I think, living in a democratic world, small d democratic, where we're all supposed to be equal. There's an unspoken pressure to dumb ourselves down, right? We don't want to try to be too smart, because then people will say, well, who do you think you are, using a 4-syllable word, But when you go and you read the classics and you read Xenophon or Thucydides or Herodotus, they were
Yeah.
not afraid to be intelligent, They were not afraid to say, to go really deep. And it's inspiring, I think, to do that. It kind of frees you up to say, shit, if they can do it, I can do it too.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
I love to read the other eras.
Yeah. Not that your writing was another era, but that exact thing that you're talking about was my experience with Gates of Fire. And then also with the Afghan campaign, and with the Virtues of War, Tides of War. Most of your ancient historical fiction really inspired me in that same way, where I saw a man who, a writer who created this work that was equal parts masculine brutality and also elegant and beautiful in the language, not just in the characters and the things that were happening, but just the language of the writing, the prose. And there were tons of words that I had never heard of before. I like every one of your books has sent me to the dictionary, and I loved that. And it influenced my writing to where I just
I never heard of
basically
them either.
I stole it all. So,
Another thing I love that does inspire me, Jonathan, is to read nonfiction accounts by the person that actually lived it, like war stories about so and so that parachutes
Yeah.
behind the enemy lines, or that kind of thing. Or, a book I really love is Joshua Slocum's Sailing Alone Around the World. I don't know if you've ever
Yes.
read that, but
Twice.
but of course there are
Yeah.
there are a
Yep.
million books like that. But I love to read these true stories
Yeah.
by these guys that have performed incredible heroic stuff, mountain climbers, that kind of it, because those are the characters we want for our own heroes.
Yeah.
And it reinforces. A lot of times I'll be writing something for a hero of mine and I'll be having them do something or say something. And I'll think to myself, could a real person really do this? Is this like too much like, Dwayne Johnson, or something like that? But that's why it's great to read stories like Shackleton or the conquest of Annapurna or something like that, because you realize, damn right, there are real guys that do this stuff, and
Yeah.
real women, and they're great humility too. A lot of them have amazing humility while
Yeah.
they're doing incredible stuff.
Yeah.
So I love to read that. That's always inspiring.
Yeah.
Ordeals that people survived. It's great.
Yeah. I felt the same way about did you ever see that movie 13 Hours with
No, I
John
didn't, but
Krasinski?
I know the one you mean. Yeah.
Great movie. And based off of a book that the survivors got together and kind of wrote, and off of their experiences, surviving the
Benghazi.
assault in Benghazi.
Yep.
And that movie, in listening to the interviews and the audio commentary and everything with the survivors, those guys talk about that movie being about 98% accurate. There really were only two things in that movie that were not the same as reality, and one was for national security reasons and the other was just for Hollywood movie making reasons. Like the RPGs, when an RPG shoots, apparently it doesn't have a smoke trail in real life like you see in the movies. That's just Hollywood, right? And then the other thing was like the main bad guy who worked for the CIA in the base, who wouldn't let him go, wouldn't take him off the leash and let him go save the ambassador. That guy in reality is two guys instead of one.
Yep.
Everything else in that movie 100% really happened.
Cool.
And then there's
Very
all these other things that happen in the movie that are more extravagant, weird, funny, that weren't included in the movie. And it teaches you, when you read nonfiction and you see these, or you watch a memoir or something, it teaches you that like real life can be way zanier and weirder and wilder than anything you can come up with. And like, do you ever get that feeling that it just sort of frees you to kind of do whatever you want with your writing at that point? Or do you feel like I should probably pull it back a little bit?
It does free you. And also, what's interesting to me a lot of times about that real life stuff, like, have you ever read With the Old Breed by E.B. Sledge?
Mm-mm.
With the Old Breed. It's about Marine Corps infantry in the Pacific.
Yep.
Nice.
And what's so interesting to me is the way these guys, who are real heroes, the way they think of themselves, and they don't think of themselves as heroes at all.
Right.
They're just, doing a job. And so for me to try to craft a hero, I want to try to use that,
Yeah.
that to try to talk the same way those guys talk, And of course, when you meet people in real life, that are like that as well, that's a whole other inspiration.
Yeah.
I realized that when I was training with Peranto, one of the guys from Benghazi. We were out at Tread Proof. This is about like 3 or 4 years ago. And we're discussing just some mechanics, whether or not what kind of foregrip I should have. He was helping me with my grip on my ARs. We're running these courses. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, what do you think? I was thinking about putting this kind of grip. Do you think I should hold back here? Like, what's better? And Tonto, just without missing a beat, exactly like what you're talking about, Steve, was just like, you know what? Whatever works for you is great. I got my way of doing it that works for me, but you do you, And I did not expect that coming from a guy of his caliber, an Army Ranger, CIA asset, survivor of one of the most horrific battles, So, the humility thing. Yeah, absolutely.
And hearing stories about people who are actually really there, really in the action, being inspiring. Is there some of that behind why you wrote The Lion's Gate? Does that tie into your writing of The Lion's Gate?
That's a great question, Nick. I just was, that was very inspirational to me. Interviewing The Lion's Gate is about the 6-Day War, the Arab-Israeli War of 1967. And to write that, I went to Israel for 9 weeks, and I interviewed pilots and tankers and stuff like that. And it was a real eye-opener for me, because almost all of the stories involved a screw-up of some kind. Guys would tell you how, they got into this position and they didn't know how to get out of it, and so they did tremendously heroic things. Like, I'm just thinking of one thing when the first Israeli Air Force attack against the Egyptian air bases on the first day of the war, the preemptive strike. The way the pilots had to come in was they had to come in 100 feet off the deck. And then they would climb to 6,000 feet and invert. And so they're looking up through the top of the canopy, straight down towards and a couple of guys did that, leading their squadrons, their formations of 4. and they looked down, and there was no airfield there. They were like lost. They took a wrong
man.
turn, and they had to, like, in that moment, they had to like go back, retrace their steps, knowing that by being late, they were screwing up everything for everybody else, but somehow they did it. And that's inspirational, not just as a hero stories, but for like you and me as we're writing books. It's like, yeah, we screw up too. It's not quite as dangerous as being in the sky at 600 miles an hour.
Mhm.
Yeah, and the stakes aren't quite as high. There's not a small nations,
But it does show you what true action heroes do, what they're really like.
Israel would have lost the war if I had been in that situation. It would have been
You
over.
guys, I hate to pull the plug here, but I have to get out of here in the next couple of minutes.
No
Absolutely.
worries. No worries.
Steve, this has been great. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is always so much fun. We hope to have you back for the next Fireside Chats with Uncle Steve in a few months. We're hoping to do these every quarter. Where can people find you real quick for anybody who might be wondering?
Okay, I'd love to do it with you guys. This is great fun. So consider me, as long as you want to have me, I'll keep coming back to do this. This is great.
You're awesome. You're awesome. Steven
Great.
Pressfield, thank you, sir. Uncle Steve, we really
We love you.
appreciate
It's
it.
great to be your uncle, you guys.
You're the
See you,
best,
Jonathan.
man.
I'll see you, Nick.
All right. See you
Excellent.
later. Have
See
a
you
great
guys.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Cool. I think there was a little there may have been a
Might be my
little audio.
microphone. I think my
You think
microphone
so?
might have some issues
Yeah.
on it too, because
Yeah.
I think you were coming through okay, but I think my audio would probably
Yeah.
drop out. We were having
That's
a ton of audio issues before we got started, and I'm gonna look into like doing anything I can on our end to try and bolster that for the next round. So it's
we'll figure it out. That was awesome though. That was awesome though.
great advice.
A lot of
as
gold.
always.
Solid gold. I'm gonna timestamp the video so you guys can go back and watch the parts where he's just dropping the nuggets, man. Just dropping them nuggets.
He's laying the
juice.
golden eggs.
It's all the places where he's just squeezing all the juice out.
It's just napalm of wisdom.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So and it may have been there was I know that Jonathan was asking a question there at the end, and I don't think the tail end of the question got through.
Yeah.
It may have gotten cut off on his end. And he didn't answer my question about Godfather. And I think it was because he actually didn't hear it. I think it got cut off.
Probably, yeah.
So apologies there, guys. But thanks for everyone for
thanks
hanging
for watching,
around.
everyone.
Yeah, it's been really cool, really fun.
Absolutely. We'll do this again, and we have something set up with Steve where we're going to do these every quarter.
Yeah.
So and they're going to promote it more on their end, like on Instagram and everything. I think so. It's going to be really cool. And Steve and Diana have been incredibly sweet and generous to us, they are amazing people. And you can find Steve at stevenpressfield.com.
Right.
He has an Instagram that he stays pretty active on. It's just Steven Pressfield. Pressfield, much like the Goslings. He's a double S guy.
Yeah, he's
and he spells his name Steven the right way with a V.
Yeah.
It's not Stefan.
I didn't put Stefan Pressfield in his.
You better not have.
Let me just double check here. I'm going to pull it back up.
I will hurt you.
No,
No, you got it right.
Did I get it right?
You get to
Is
live
it right
another
that
week.
I spelled it
Yeah.
right. Okay. I'm a writer.
So sometimes sometimes we're more of a wronger than a writer.
Yeah,
for
real. This might be like the last several guests we've gone like 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
Yeah, this is the shortest one we've had.
Yeah, and he told us he only had an hour when we logged on earlier today.
Yeah.
So
we lost some time due to the technical stuff. We were
Yeah.
trying to get the microphone situation worked out. So
yeah. Oh well, that's
Yeah.
right. Maybe this is the record for the shortest one that we've done.
it probably is,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which means it's
Honestly.
the most packed with good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Quality
Yeah.
over quantity. Yeah. Dense. It's the condensed
Yeah.
milk of interviews for the Goslings. But I say that, but like here's the thing. We also had Gabe. For an hour. We thought we were gonna, because we did that. We recorded that at 9:00 at night, our time on a Monday.
Started at 9.
Yeah, and we thought I thought, man, that's pretty late for Nick. That's kind of late for me too. Like,
Yeah, I'm normally in bed.
man, we're gonna, and we talked to Gabe and we're like, we're gonna have Gabe for an hour. Then it ended up being almost
3 hours.
3 hours. It was like 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah, we were like
That
just
we
a few
had-
minutes
yeah,
shy
it
of
was
3 hours.
awesome.
Yeah, it was great. Well, it was. Yeah, I was fading though towards the end. You guys probably noticed.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I felt it the next day, but it was worth it, man.
It was awesome. Yeah.
So, it's nice to do one of these though on the, that's kind of different where, we're right at an hour and, it's really fun. And like Nick said, we get a ton of stuff packed in there.
Yeah.
So you get some variety with the Goslings. You can have the awesome, sprawling, epic conversation like what we had with Gabe or like with Derek and Gary Wayne.
Man, yeah.
We're going to have those guys back, by the way, on separate
Coming soon.
occasions. Yep. You have those long form interviews, and then you have these where we kind of get just a ton of stuff packed into an hour, and it's a lot more user friendly for some people who may not have a whole day to listen to a 2.5 hour Goslings session. So,
and next week's going to be good. We're going to have Steven Ty and his colleague Jan talking about their paranormal investigators, right? So they're going to be talking about their experiences and sharing some cool stuff with us.
Yeah.
They had some examples, some data from their research, I think recordings, maybe some images that they might share as well. I'm talking with them by email right now, but that's going to be next week, our Halloween episode. It's going to be cool.
You want to be awesome.
Yeah.
And then we want to thank everybody in the comments. We had a couple new faces in the comments. Overbuilt, I think, was one of them.
Well, he's not new. He's been on several times, actually. Overbuilt's he's been on several times. Overbuilt Automotive.
I have not seen him.
Mike, of course.
I apologize,
Shannon,
Overbuilt. My memory
Jerry's,
probably is just crap.
Harvey, appreciate you weighing in.
Awesome nickname or awesome username, by the way, Harvey. I love it.
Nice. Really great. I appreciate everyone.
I don't know
jumping
who
in on the
Harvey Weinstein is, but his sense of humor is like pure Goslings. Yeah, it's pretty good. And then Mama Shay asked, let's see, Shannon asked, which books of his would you recommend to start out with? I would, for me,
fiction or nonfiction?
I'll give one of each.
All right, give one of each.
I would say for fiction, for me, Gates of Fire, and then nonfiction, The War of Art. I think I know what your answer would be. Go ahead.
My answer for fiction would be Man at Arms.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say
fiction. For fiction,
really? More so than The Legend of Bagger Vance.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Really? Okay. Yep. I am glad I did not put money on this.
Yeah, I would say if it were me, and I had to, because I've read them all, and if I were starting over and I was like, which one am I going to read first? It'd be a Man at Arms. I
think so.
Tempted to read it again already. Yeah. And then for nonfiction, of course, The War of Art. You got to start with The War of Art. I would say The War of Art, and then
put your ass where your heart wants to be.
This one,
yeah.
This is deep, man.
And he has, I wonder. Like, I always hesitate to list his books because there are so many. Like, we'll just go down the nonfiction list for Steven Pressfield: The War of Art, Turning Pro, Do the Work, The Warrior Ethos, The Authentic Swing. And then Nobody Wants to Read Your Shit and The Artist's Journey. And then he has two others in here, The Lion's Gate and An American Jew. But those are not motivational in nature. These, as far as, being self-actualized in your writing or your creativity. And then his fiction speaks for itself. The Virtues of War is about Alexander the Great, and that is probably one of his most popular of all of his ancient Greco.
Yeah, if I would say though, if you're a Christian,
a Man at Arms.
A Man at Arms is where you start.
Yeah,
start with the Man at Arms. It's going to resonate with you big time. And then go to Legend of Bagger Vance, and then Gates of Fire.
Yeah,
and then everything else he's ever written, because it's amazing.
That ending in A Man at Arms.
Oh yeah,
is perfect.
Yeah,
I genuinely could not have. I walked away from that book not nitpicking or thinking I wanted anything else.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I do.
Sometimes you get to the end of a book or a movie and you think, man, I really wish that character had lived, or I wish that bad guy had died, or I wish they killed Prince Humperdinck. Whatever. Right. But man, you get to the end of A Man at Arms.
Humperdinck.
Yeah, Humperdinck.
I'm not listening.
Good luck storming the castle. You think it'll work? It'll take a miracle.
Shut up. Shut up, you witch. I'm not a witch. I'm your wife.
Yeah, same difference.
The Blunt Truth says, as a screenwriter, this was extremely insightful interview. Thank you, brothers. Man, absolutely.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
I really appreciate
hope-
you
glad
saying
you enjoyed
that.
it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You gotta I gotta do that fool's cap. I'm serious. I'm gonna be using the fool's cap method on this next book.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. You cannot go wrong with any of Steven Pressfield's works. His website, you definitely want to follow him on his website. And I'll give you a story. We didn't have time for me to get to this, and I'm kicking myself for it. I'm gonna have to save it for next time, but probably leave you with this since we can kind of wrap up a little early here. One of the bad habits, one of the methods that resistance gets me has always been video games or computer games, because they create a false, not just all the stimulus response, but they also create a false sense of accomplishment. So you think like, oh, if I could just beat this boss, or if I could just beat this level, or like if I could just upgrade my civilization to this, whatever. And you can burn a lot of time doing that. And even to this day, I still wrestle with it sometimes. Never goes away. However, one of the games, like there have been a lot of games that have inspired and helped my writing over the years. Whether it was the aesthetic of Thief, the Dark Project, whether it was the role reversal of TIE Fighter, whether it was sort of the fun pop culture symposium of Halo, or Rome Total War. And Rome Total War became a real beauty from ashes kind of thing, as far as my resistance being used by God to be turned into something beneficial, because I used Rome Total War as a research tool for the books. So like I had all these ancient looking battles, which was in the Heavenly Realms series, and then in some other stuff that I was wanting to write, and I didn't have any way to visualize it.
Okay.
So I had a friend, I had my buddy, Chris knows, longest running friend from high school. Shout out to Chris. He worked at a computer shop, and he built me a PC, a gaming PC. And I literally used that thing until it melted. And so
you melted it down.
Yeah. And so he made this PC. I ordered Rome Total War and a graphics card and everything. And I played that, and I was able to visualize and recreate as close as I could, all of these battles that I had been writing about in the Heavenly Realm series, whether it was Empyrean Falling, Grey Aegis, Sturm and Drang, all of these different, big engagements that I was trying to get onto the page. It really made a big difference. But here's the thing. I say all that not just to like talk about something, but just to tell you also, the reason why I know about Rome Total War is because it was used in a TV show on the History Channel called Decisive Battles, which was narrated by a guy named, I can't remember the actor's name, but he played Captain Spears in Band of Brothers, like the crazy, cool, just like, we're all going to die, so we're going to do some crazy stuff guy. Like one of my favorite characters. Anyways, so great show. This is around 2005, 2006. The only reason I knew about this show was because Steven Pressfield was a talking head on that show.
Okay.
And the only reason I found out about that is because I went to stevenpressfield.com. So all that to say, because I went to the website, I ultimately, what that ended up with, because I kept up with Steve and what all he was doing, I ended up with finding out about a computer game that really helped me, as a resource to actually write my novels.
Cool.
And so I'm telling you, you never know where that kind of stuff is going to come from, but like any writers you like keep up with them, because you don't know what resources they're going to throw out there that might make or break your books. I mean, it's very arguable. And I got a whole other book, 2 books, actually, 2 other novels out of the Rome Total War game. I never would have known about it if I hadn't gone to Steve's Pressfield or his website and, seen the TV show.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Cool.
So follow the people you like on social media, not just to support them, but also because you have no idea what their stuff is that's going to lead to making or breaking your work.
Yep.
So, anyways, whatever. I was going to tell Steve that story, but it'll wait until next time.
I still had a question that
did you?
Yeah, that I didn't get to ask him.
Really?
Yeah, I was going to ask him how he celebrates finishing a draft.
Oh, that's
his
right.
First draft.
Yeah.
Or a successful launch, whichever one he celebrates more. How does he do it? But he probably celebrates by, like we were talking about, he probably celebrates by just starting the next one. You know,
I wanted to ask him about, we didn't have time. There was the next one I had in the chamber. I wanted to ask him about sports, because Steve, and just like what other stuff outside of writing that Steve enjoys, obviously golf, but that kind of falls under, writing still. Sports, and what is it about sports? Because every time we talk to Steve, he's always, Steve is really great about mentioning some stuff about baseball or football, and there is a real life drama, an epic nature that goes along with sports, and it'd just be cool to hear what his thoughts are on it.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of athletes take to their training like it's an art form.
Yeah,
with that level of dedication.
Yeah,
and he's friends with a lot of athletes, if I'm not mistaken. I know they pay attention to what he has to say. But he looks, he talks about like the Michael Jordans, the Kobe Bryants, and so forth. It's really cool to hear him talk about that. But it's probably golf. It's probably golf. And if you ever read The Legend of Bagger Vance, it'll be golf for you too.
Yeah.
Because it's awesome.
Was Dad left-handed?
He golfed right-handed.
Okay, thank God. Yeah. I still have Dad's golf clubs.
There you go.
And I have seriously been thinking about, like, Nick and I going to a golf course somewhere and just sort of, because the irony is we both worked at a golf course.
We did. We got to play for free. Now I'm like, I should have just stayed there.
I know.
It was so fun.
Yeah. That was my first job. Was working at the golf course.
Cool.
Yeah. Because of Nick, because he was working there one summer.
It was a golf course that had golf carts.
Yeah.
It wasn't a course that you walked.
Yeah.
I don't think that you were allowed to walk. You had to get a cart, which is
so,
the only way to golf.
Yeah.
Is in my opinion. I'm not walking. I ain't walking. Forget that.
I need to read.
I'm going to hit the ball and you're going to drive me to it.
Yeah.
And we're going to go four-wheeling, most likely.
Is it better to Is it better to golf first and then read The Legend of Bagger Vance, or read The Legend of Bagger Vance and then golf?
Go to the you need to golf. You need to play 18 holes at least. If you've never golfed, play 18 holes, then read The Legend of Bagger Vance, and then go back and play 18 holes again. And you probably will play more than just 18
You'll get bitten by the bug.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. As if I need another expensive habit, but I got Dad's clubs, so that's like the big investment, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He had nice clubs.
Yeah.
I'm jealous.
You can use them. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Nick's only 8 feet taller than me. So,
yeah, right.
We'll have to. Well, he'll be like Dorf. He'll do it on his knees.
Dorf. Talk about a blast from the past.
How's that for a callback?
Oh my God.
All right, everyone. You want to wrap? You want to get out of here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
let's do it. Let's
Absolutely.
do it. Well, real quick, I guess. Shout out. Well, first of all, patrons.
Yes, thank you.
For the patrons. Mike, Shannon, and Jay Reese were all on this one. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
Roseanne, Adam, Ann, we thank you guys for also contributing.
Yep.
Yeah. Huge help.
On the Patreon, which you guys should all sign up for, by the way. On the Patreon, I did a one-off today. I typed a one-off just as because I'm in between the books, and I'm still like developing the story I'm gonna write, but I just finished the one.
Yeah.
And so I'm still trying to write in between. And so I did a one-off.
Yeah.
And it's called You Don't Need a Dog. Because I've been so upset with my dog lately. So I wrote a one and I uploaded it to the patrons.
Yeah.
To the patrons.
Awesome. Yeah. So, all future typewriter one-offs. If you go back and watch our old episodes, we used to do typewriter one-offs and they were a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But all future typewriter one-offs, with perhaps maybe some unforeseen exception, will only be on the Patreon.
Yeah. We're just gonna send that to patrons.
And
I wish they would too.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it'd be cool if you patrons out there would, if you ever write something, essay, short story, long story. I don't care.
Yeah.
Maybe just daily pages, whatever.
Mhm.
Just upload something that you guys write.
Yeah.
I'd love to read it.
It'd be really cool
have
to
a lot of
build
writers.
yeah, we do have a lot of writers and very talented people. It'd be really cool to sort of build a, a forum community with them. I mean,
Yeah.
you have Adam, and his wife Dee. Jay Reese Bradley just told me that Shannon is quite the artist. And Shannon, I got news for you. She showed me some of your drawings.
We're gonna be talking. We're gonna be reaching out to you, and I want to see more of your art. If
Shannon,
you're
you're
willing to share that sort of thing, of course,
Yeah.
that's a sensitive thing for a lot of artists. Sometimes
It
they don't
can
want
be.
to share, but yeah, it was awesome. It was really awesome. It was impressive.
I like to find those boundaries and just kitty cat
You
tiptoe
like to
over
violate
just
boundaries.
with my little kitty cat tail. Just
But yeah, if you're watching this, we'd love for you to be a patron. Patreon.com/the Goslings, $5 a month.
Yeah.
And it'll help us hopefully make the show better.
Yeah.
Today was rough with technology because there
Yeah.
was like delay in our audio getting to him. And
Yeah.
I think we just need to figure out what it is, and on our end, we're going to fix it, whatever it is, because we had
Yeah.
a little bit of an issue last time too. We can't have a third time.
No, I know we can't. And we had it happen with John Bernardo. Although we got that one sorted out. And then we had it happen with Gary Wayne one time as well.
When he was on with Derek.
Yeah. And so I don't know if it's an internet issue on our end or a restream issue on our end, or if it's just a weak internet connection on our guests' end occasionally, or a technical issue that we don't have any control over. I don't know what it is, but I know that two things, and like this is where like I have to ask people to join the Patreon, because there are two expenses that I think will really help with this. One is upgrading our restream.
Our
That's
live
something-
streaming software.
Our live streaming software. If we can upgrade that, then I think that at least increases our chances of not having it be a problem on their end. And then two, eventually getting to a point where we have enough patrons to where we can pay for an engineer,
Someone to do all this.
yeah,
while we're doing
someone who
the
can
interview.
troubleshoot that stuff.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. I would be willing to pay someone to come over and just be on deck.
Yeah, someone more techie and
Yeah.
younger, and you can be like, hey, you guys are idiots. You should just let me do it. This is how you fix it. This is how
Right.
you run it.
Yeah,
That's
because
what we need. We need like a Gen Z, kid who knows all about this stuff and what's
Yeah.
next, and for them to just do it, and we'll pay them.
Yeah.
That's what we want to get to,
we
because we want to focus
Eventually
on.
we'll pay
We
you.
want to focus on better questions.
yeah
With our great guests, and not have to worry about. We still want to do the chat. I don't
Yeah.
want the producer to show. We want to interact with everyone, but it's
Well, and poor Steve. I mean, he was struggling too, and he actually sent me an email about it. And yeah, poor guy, man. He was having reverb issues, and that really makes it hard to understand and concentrate when you're having double the fun of somebody's voice in your head. So,
oh my gosh.
yeah. So Steve's a real trooper, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was anybody's fault. It's just technology sometimes craps the bed. But yeah, Steve was a real trooper on this one. And
I say we crap in technology's bed.
I would love to find it and
Let's
pull an
do it.
amber turd. I would love to. Elon, here's the thing. Like, your cars, like, whatever, dude. I don't care. Mars, I don't even really think Mars is real. Okay. I don't think the moon landing was real. And I'm pretty sure maybe the earth is flat. Okay. So here's the thing, Elon, before you try and convince me, of anything, why don't you just make a printer that works? And
For real.
and just make an internet connection that doesn't suck.
Yeah.
How about you do those two things first, and then we'll proclaim you Tesla reborn, and we will, laud you with praise, whatever. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
I will be in your mercenary army if you will I will put my flesh and blood on the line to protect your assets.
Isn't he making robots now?
Probably, well, he's
Tesla
warning
bot?
about AI, but I'm just saying.
He's warning about AI, but he's
Yeah.
still making robots.
Yeah, well, yeah. playing both sides.
He's playing both sides. Is exactly what he's doing.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's gonna,
But just why don't we just make a printer that works? And just
I
make an
think
internet
him
that
going to
doesn't
Mars
suck?
is a great idea.
You want him to be the first one on Mars?
I want him to. You know, he said himself he wants to die on Mars, just not on impact.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Fair. Yeah. Whatever.
I'm like, well, you know, beggars can't be choosers.
He just right. You know, I mean,
No,
who's gonna know the difference?
right?
You know, and it's all the same.
Oh wait, we got
So-
comments. Sorry, we got carried away. Hold on, let me scroll down. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Oh, thank you, children. Oh yeah, so yeah, Shannon does children's illustration. That's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
What is this? The Vanilla Mouse and one that you've spun on. Oh yeah, Jay Reese is just commenting on Shannon's drawings. So good. Yeah, we got we didn't even touch on that when we were talking to Shannon a few weeks ago.
I know.
We didn't know.
Yeah, we didn't
See,
know.
We didn't know.
It's
Now
another
we
layer
know.
of the onion, Shannon.
Yeah. And we've
Mhm.
said before we should get Jay Reese and Shannon like on one interview.
Nick and I have been angling for that for a
fun.
little while. We're trying to find like a window of opportunity. And if you haven't, you should go back and watch our interview with Jay Reese Bradley, and you should watch our interview with Shannon.
Mhm.
Shannon has an amazing story that is incredibly edifying and uplifting. And then Jay is so much fun, and she's got a cool story as well. And Jay is an author, Jay Reese Bradley, the author of the Brumbltide series.
Yep.
And then Shannon does illustrations. And yeah, we got to get the two of you, and they're friends.
Yep.
So we got to get the two of you on at the same time,
Yeah,
because
that'd be
I
cool.
would be fascinated, because your energy is so different. Like Jay Reese
Yeah, it's
Bradley
true. Yeah.
is just, she's super fun and just this bright sunshine, and then like Shannon is totally the moon. She's so cool. She's just like totally chill and just easygoing, and it's so much fun. It's so relaxing to talk to her. There's like zero nervous energy at all in that interview. It's one of our best ones we've ever done. So I am fascinated to see what you two are like.
That'd be
at the
interesting.
same time.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting. It'd be fun.
So
Yeah.
anyways, yeah, we have a massive schedule. We are full through January. Become a Patreon member, and you will be able to find out what our schedule is really in perpetuity.
Yeah, I just posted it the other day.
Yeah.
Updated schedule.
And you get discounts on books and like merchandise, because we got shirts through Teespring and all sorts of stuff, and you just get to participate in a cool community, and it helps support us so that we don't have these technical issues anymore. That's really what
They
we're
will
aiming
go
for.
away. We will figure
Yeah.
it out.
Yeah.
We're gonna crap in technology's bed.
Yeah.
That's gonna be our new thing.
crap in technology's bed. Yeah. Yeah. You should just have a picture of
Our
Amber.
new slogan.
You just have a picture of Amber Heard and little typewriters coming out of her butt, onto a Tesla. Anyways, all right.
Oh, with
If you
that-
want Gosling's t-shirts,
oh yeah, t-shirts.
yes,
Go to that ridiculous looking link, or be a patron, and you get discounts on t-shirts. But yeah, the goslings.creator-spring.com, because
Teespring does not do you any favors when it comes to this.
no, they don't. Thank you, Teespring, for
Yeah.
people have to remember what that looks like.
Strike down the darkness with the t-shirts.
Yeah.
And we got a bunch of great logos.
Yeah, you got one that says "Put your ass where your heart wants to be." Steven Pressfield, so cool.
Yeah.
He gave us permission to make that shirt. By the way.
Yeah, that's what a sweet guy Steve is. We seriously, we made this, we designed this just as a celebratory thing for Steve to promote, help him promote his new book,
which is
Put Your Ass
awesome.
Where Your Heart
We
Wants to
should
Be.
totally read.
And then and we were like, listen, it's so like we're not trying to sell these t-shirts or anything. We just did this for you for fun. We thought it was cool. And he was like, sell them, sell the hell out of them. He didn't care. Yeah. So that's what kind of guy Steve is. Very generous. We
Well,
don't
man.
deserve him, but we'll take him.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so glad he decided to come back, and we need to iron out our tech wrinkles before we have him back on.
Yeah.
And we're gonna make sure that's the case.
We got about 3 months.
Yeah.
So
I think we can do it.
yeah,
I think we can do it. We can do it.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's it for me. You good?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
All right. Well, you know the drill, guys. Go forth.
And strike down the darkness.
We'll see you next week.
I'm Jonathan,
I'm Nick.
and we are the Goslings.